So we're going to start with opening statements when we get to our first question. So we'll start here with opening statements. And when we go to our first question, it will start with Michelle and we'll work our way backwards. So John, 1 minute. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Hello, my name is John Gustafson. In this day and age, you need to know when to ask hard questions. And then you need to be unafraid to stand up for what's right. And that's why getting into bed with special interest groups is such a problem, because the relationship comes with expectations. Now, of course, we need better grades, better safety, and better results. And I'll fight hard for that. But I've been around the block enough to know when I'm being manipulated. I've been to the accountability meetings. I've sat through the Maoist struggle sessions where we're supposed to smile and clap and believe them when they say, trust the science. Both sides of the divide go along with this because both sides have something to gain. Both sides have something to gain by going along with the Polis Palantir agenda. It's not aligned with freedom or our economic well-being, and it just doesn't work. We have yet more schools on the watch list. Thank you very much.
You waiting? Good evening. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. I am a parent of 2 D11 students. I am married to a D11 teacher, and I have worked at the district myself for the last 15 years. I'm running because I know the difference between a good education and a free public education and not getting either of those. As a landscape foreman, I worked with incarcerated youth. I taught them life skills. I taught them how to use tools, how to budget a crew, and how to properly scope a job site and interact with customers. And I noticed how much they lit up with just those few skills I taught them for the hope that a future could bring that didn't involve crime, that involved an ability to provide for themselves without crime. Shortly after that, I worked with expelled students, continuing their education at the same cause, and trying to make sure that they received an education once they were removed from that environment. And my name is Jeremiah Johnson, and I hope to earn your support tonight.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Cole, and I want to say right up front, I am not a fascist. I retired from the classroom after 18 years teaching in District 11. I taught 12 years at Doherty and 6 years at Mitchell. Teaching became a second career for me. Prior to that, I was an executive director at 2 different pregnancy resource centers, and I worked for Focus, and then I was also a pastor of a church many years ago. As I look at my life, I see that I have had a constant thread running through that, and that is I have a desire to work and help young people. When I decided to retire, I realized my mission was not over. And that's why I'm running for school board, is I believe that I can make an impact and continue to protect children. I'm a lifelong learner. I have 2 master's degrees and an educational specialist degree beyond the master's degrees. And I would ask for your support. My name is Bruce Cole.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Michelle Rule. I'm a pilot, an English teacher, and a riding instructor on horses for children with disabilities. Also the mom of 2 little ones in the room. Hi, guys. And wife to a military veteran. I have also just retired from the Air Force after 21 years as a colonel, and I did fly combat missions in the Middle East. But more important to this forum, I also taught English around the world, Ghana, Tanzania, Nepal, and Afghanistan. And I can tell you, when I taught little girls in Afghanistan, they risked their lives to come to class because they saw education as their best hope. Unfortunately, here in D11, even though I was teaching girls English as a second language and they could read about 80%, here in D11, our students are reading about 38% proficiency across the board. That's not good enough for my little girls in Afghanistan, and it's not good enough for the children in D11. But we can fix this by focusing on raising academics, improving school safety, and helping them find jobs afterwards. I'm Dr. Michelle Rule for D11. Thank you.
Okay, we've got to have that noise at every one of these. It's amazing. So Michelle, you will field the first question first. You have 90 seconds. That is 1:30 for the math impaired. 90 seconds. Ready? Yes. Do you support the teaching or training of critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion? Once elected, will you abide by the recent federal executive order and remove all CRT and DEI training from the district?
Well, as a teacher, I have faced this issue quite a few times, and I do not support critical race theory. I do support teaching history as it happened and being very respectful. In fact, I am German by descent, and I recently went to Germany. And when I went to some of the schools there and talked to people there, yes, there is some shame about being German, but there's also an immense pride in forgiveness, in looking forward, in growing. And I was very proud to be German, even though I can still regret some of the things that actually happened within history. And I think that's the way we teach U.S. history also. Additionally, I do follow executive orders. I worked at the White House for 2 years under President Biden and President Trump, and I actually wrote executive orders. I'm very familiar with how they work, and it's our commander-in-chief asking us to carry out an order. So yes, I would abide by that.
Wait. If I start talking early, then I get more time. Yeah.
This whole 90-second thing is a little challenging.
Yeah, we just changed over, so just 1 second. We're in a learning curve. I got my phone. Yeah. You better put in your phone while I'm working on it.
All right. Are you ready, Mr. Cole?
I'm ready. And I won't take my 90 seconds. How's that?
This generation. Go.
All right. I do not support the teaching or training in critical race theory or DEI. I was thinking about it today. Somebody asked me what my first job was, and I remember standing in front of the grocery store selling grit newspapers for a dime, and then had my Denver Post paper route with the big canvas bags on my Schwinn bicycle. And I've been working since I was a young kid, and I can tell you that that work ethic has told me that not everybody has the same outcome. Everybody should be given the same opportunity, but not everybody should be guaranteed the same outcome. And that's where I think there's the biggest problem with a lot of the DEI and the critical race theory issues that are happening. As a result of that, I would support the federal executive order to remove all CRT and DEI from our district. I think it's harmful, not just to our children, but I think it's harmful to our society. We need to all understand that God created us equal, and we all have those equal opportunities, but we shouldn't expect that everybody is going to be guaranteed the same outcome.
No, and yes.
Simple enough.
No, I do not support the teaching or training of critical race theory in our schools. I do not advocate divisive politics in our schools. I do not advocate any type of unpatriotic animus that's synthetically produced. Forgive me for being so wordy. If we're giving that federal executive order, I'm going to follow it. If it needs to come out, it needs to come out. I care about people. I don't want to bully people. I want to meet people where they are on the level. That being said, if there's an executive order, we need to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Okay. This will begin with you, sir. Your district has a phone in classroom policy. How is that working? Are there any enforcement challenges? And how would you address them?
There are many challenges. The yonder bag can be defeated and children can listen to things wirelessly. Just having a device, an addictive device in their presence causes cognitive division in schools. It causes poor behavior. Frankly, looking at a screen for a young person causes erratic behavior. We used to know that and know that to be common sense. Now it's something that needs to be argued and fought for. I'm no Luddite, I believe that we need to have technology in our schools. As far as enforcing, it's going to be challenging. We've reached this place in the last few years that some people feel that it's a civil right to have access to technology. And again, I want to meet people on the level, but I also want to have the best outcomes, and I want to have a generation of citizens that can work, do good, and be patriotic and stand up for our country. Thank you very much.
So this issue really comes down to classroom management. We need to ensure that our teachers have the training and tools to manage their classrooms appropriately. And there was a time when teachers would not allow a student to have a cell phone out in the classroom. My students attend a school that confiscates them as they walk in, gives them back at lunch, confiscates them, gives them back at the end of the day. If there's an emergency, the school will call. That's how these things work. So we need to focus on academics in the classroom. And the yonder pouches, they're not necessary if we have that training and those skills for our educators.
I was in the classroom the year that the yonder pouches came into an existence, and part of me rejoiced. I was so excited to think that we were now going to have kids paying attention in class rather than staring down at their phones. One of the things that I learned, though, is we talk a lot about wanting kids to have creative and critical thinking, and the yonder pouches brought it out. We found kids that were putting in foam rubber phones into their pouches. We found kids that had old broken phones that they would stick into their pouches so that they could keep having their phones out there. And I think the theory of not having kids accessing their phones is wonderful. We asked the question up there about how is it working. It's amazing how many kids have yonder pouches that they say that their phones are in their yonder pouches, but they still have earbuds in their ears as they're listening to something that's coming from someplace. So yeah, there are enforcement challenges. We had a lot of kids early on. Teachers were told, don't even try to take the phones away, just contact security, and they would come and pull them out. By the end of the first year, we were being told, if it's not disturbing the class, just go ahead and let them do it. So I think the big issue is we have to be willing to address the issues, stand firm, and not let the inmates run the asylum.
And speaking of inmates running the asylum, so I teach at the Air Force Academy, and I also was a cadet. And I can tell you that the cadets know how to get around any rule that possibly exists. They will have some sort of new wireless device that they designed for space. So what I've had to do in the classroom, and what I think we should do with our teachers, is you do experiential learning, the type of learning where you stand up, you're moving, you're so engaged in the material, you don't even want to look at your phone. I know that sounds idealistic, but it's possible to have students up and doing experiential learning. But then how do we teach that to all of the teachers from high school down to a kindergarten class? It's going to take some investment and training in our teachers, but it can be done. And then at the end, they realize, oh, wow, the whole class went by, and I actually learned something, and I didn't have my phone.
Please retrieve the microphone. As a board member, what are your 3 top priorities to achieve?
I'm so glad you asked. My top priority, hands down, has got to be to raise the academic scores of proficiency and growth. So right now across the district, I mentioned 38% proficiency across the board. That's the average reading score. As an English teacher, this not only breaks my heart, this makes me worry. My children are 6 and 9. If their generation cannot read past 3rd grade level and we let them graduate, we're doing a disservice to our entire nation. All the 3 of us right here all served in the military, and I'm concerned about passing along our nation's care to the next set of children if they can't read. Additionally, math hovers between 27 and 29%. What other industry could you get by with 38% or 29% proficiency? None. So we absolutely have to raise the academic scores and proficiency. I recommend we set a high bar, which would be 70% growth, how we grow compared to other schools, over 5 years. It's a hard goal, but we need to set hard goals at this point. My second priority is also helping kids find hope for employment after graduation. So we have wonderful programs that we've started in the district already. I teach an aviation class tomorrow, by the way, during the strike. The three of us will be in the classrooms teaching. And I'm going to be teaching aviation to kids at Mitchell High School. They can also learn construction. They can learn vocational. So number 2 priority is to have them realize, yes, after graduation, if I show up and I get my degree, or I get my graduation out of this high school, I will get a job. And then the third thing is rebuilding the trust and safety in our schools. So I helped design a safety program in a charter school in D20, and that's very near and dear to my heart. So grades, jobs, and safety.
Mr. Cole?
You know, we work in a system that is broken nationwide. We have kids failing all over the country, and unfortunately, it's all the way down here into District 11 too. And when we're at a 38% of our students being able to read at grade level, 27% of our students being able to do math at grade level, it breaks my heart. To look into the eyes of a senior who is about to graduate and know that they know that they're not academically prepared to go out and meet the world, it breaks my heart to see that. So I've said that in this broken system, we have to do something big, but it's as easy as ABC. And that is the first thing that we have to do is we've got to focus on academics. I want to see K through 3 where we're teaching kids to read so that in 4 through 12 they can read to learn. And that's really one of my biggest goals. Secondly, we have to work on our budget and infrastructure. The district faces financial challenges because of declining enrollments. We have a lot of deferred maintenance, as we saw with Jenkins and the issue that happened at Jenkins in the building. Having kids move to Doherty, where I was in the middle of the school year, we have to go after budget and infrastructure. And finally, we really have to do something to restore character and patriotism in our students. I so badly want to see our kids have pride in themselves and develop character and honesty in their lives, and that's going to have to come through us in the classroom.
So my 3 priorities: school safety, academic outcomes, and parental rights. School safety means a sound security plan across the district, locked exterior doors, trained, armed SRO officers in the buildings. That means gender-specific bathrooms. That means gender-specific locker rooms, gender-specific team sports. Academic outcomes, aligning the curriculum to what our kids need to learn. Mathematics, reading, writing. We need to choose a curriculum that's going to work. We need to train to that curriculum. We need to align our classroom coaching to that curriculum. And we need to support our educators so they have the tools they need to succeed. And then parental rights. Outside of the teacher in the classroom, our parents are, in my opinion, the second largest factor in academic outcomes. Reading to your kids, helping your children with their homework, engaging them at the dinner table at night is huge. And those parents, all of our parents, need a voice at the table in the school and in the classroom and have a positive relationship with those teachers.
Better grades, better safety, and better results. This is going to sound like a bit of a tangent, but the better grades comes from the slowing down the experimentation on our kids. Now, if you guys don't like going to the grocery store and having to bag your own groceries on the spot or having everything moved around all the time and you can't find it, that's because they're experimenting on your behavior. They do that to our kids all the time, every year, and they have new curriculum, but they also have new modalities. That leads to teacher failure and teacher burnout. So we need better grades. We need better grades by doing what this gentleman just said. Let's find something good and stick to it. Better safety. We have an amazing veteran community here in Colorado Springs. They are a blessing. We need more people on the ground who can do the right thing at the right moment. More cameras and having AI surveillance just lends a sense of voyeurism where we're waiting to watch something happen and then we're going to prosecute people after. We need to help people on the spot. And then also better results. We have a lot of churn in the admin exec right now. I don't know what's going on, but bodies are going like it's a threshing machine. You can't really run a good organization if you don't have people there making things happen. And when you have a bare bones operation, that's when crisis can turn into a nightmare. So that's what we need. And of course, family engagement helps a lot too. I've been finding that over the past few years that we've been giving the illusion of voice, and that's got to stop.
Well, thank you, sir. Now I know why every time I go in Costco, I can never find anything. Conditioning. See, someone else has been there. So we will begin with you. I've heard this a couple times now, so I'm curious to hear the answers. So should the school district have a role in promoting patriotism? If so, how should it be promoted?
Yes. The Constitution of the United States of America and the Bill of Rights, Pledge of Allegiance. I think prayer should be in schools. I'm a big believer in it. I think patriotism means knowing about your history and knowing about the good things that you've done, along with the things that aren't so good. I believe that patriotism is what brings our communities together. It's what reduces the division that we see, and it makes it so special interests can't pit us against each other and keep making the world a worse place. Thank you very much.
Yes, so as a member of the Colorado Air National Guard, I obviously take a lot of pride in being American and promoting Americanism and our ideals. I think we should probably educate our kids on why we're the greatest nation on the planet. I think we should teach the Constitution. I think we should teach the Bill of Rights. I think we should teach a deeper understanding of the civics of our nation. I have no issue with bringing in the foundational documents of our laws and teaching the Federalist Papers. I think these are all sound curriculum for our students, and we really should understand what it means to be American, especially in ELL classes, classes for immigrants, etc. They need to understand why it's great to be here.
I definitely think that we need to be teaching patriotism, and with our kids, we need to teach true history, not whether it's, I had somebody ask me the other day if I was going to support having Project 2025 history taught in our schools as opposed to the 1619 history. I want to teach the true history of our country. I can trace my family roots all the way back to Jamestown. We've been here a long time, and I am so proud of being an American. I'm so proud that if I wanted to join the Sons of the American Revolution, I have the whole genealogy back that I could do that. I am proud to be an American, and it breaks my heart when we do have the Pledge of Allegiance every day, but when I have kids say the Pledge of Allegiance, 60 to 70% of the kids remain seated in class. So somehow we have to instill a love for our country once again. We haven't done everything right, but we're sure doing it better than anybody else has ever done it. And I am so thankful that I live in this country that was established by God, and I want to somehow communicate that with our kids.
So I'll give an example to answer this question. Have you all heard of Honor Flight? Where veterans take an aircraft and they go to DC, they go to their memorial wall and they see the names on the wall. Honor Flight was just at my children's school this past week, and I'm a veteran, my husband's a veteran, everyone they know is a veteran. They came home and I said, how was Honor Flight? And they said, I don't know, it was a bus full of a bunch of old people. We stopped everything we were doing, we paused the cartoon they were watching and said, whoa, 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 let's rewind that. And I had my kids watch a video on Honor Flight. My husband talked about how Southwest Airlines takes Honor Flight, and we told them from our hearts what it meant to see a Vietnam veteran go to the wall. Now, our generation of Afghanistan and Iraq, we don't have a wall yet, but we told our kids one day we will, and one day you'll need to fly us there so we can see the names like this on my bracelet, Rosalind Schulte. And so I think it starts with connecting with our students, making it real for them. We give them the foundational documents. I have written curriculum, English curriculum about the founding documents. So of course I would help with that. But then it's getting our kids to really understand connections between the documents. And a bus full of elderly people, no, that was a generation that fought so you don't have to.
Okay, sorry, shameless plug. How many people in this room right now has learned anything about our founding documents in this very room? I love you all. I don't know who your teacher is, but I'm assuming he's a really cool guy. Just saying. All right, so we will begin. This is the last of the prepared questions. So Michelle, according to the news media, there will be a strike in D11 tomorrow. What are your thoughts?
Oh, can I have thoughts? So tomorrow, the schools, I'll start at the beginning. The district is striking because of the end of a failed master agreement that was not helping teachers anymore. It had expired. So all this rhetoric about the master agreement being canceled, it had come to its expiration date and it needed a new, fresh look. So right now, the strike, the signs say it's a strike for students. That is absolutely incorrect. It is a strike set up by the CSEA, the union, to get teachers out of the classroom. I went through the process. I have a PhD. I went through the process of becoming a substitute teacher in D11. I will be in the school tomorrow because I stand for students. I'm not going to abandon them, and not all working parents can just pull their kids out of school. I understand that teachers are frustrated. I've been a teacher for a very long time. More compensation is a great thing to ask for, but not the way it's happening at the expense of the students. So yes, a strike is an American thing to do, and that's great, but not when our children are affected. So there are not enough substitute teachers to come into the schools tomorrow, but we're going to all be in the school, and we're going to make it happen. And I know I will be there teaching aviation, and every child that wants to show up, I will teach them something. So I'm asking, if you're watching this, if you're listening, please don't strike. Don't leave the students. Be in the schools tomorrow. The kids need us.
Well, my thoughts on this strike go back a long way, all the way back to May, when the vote was taken to go on strike, and I voted no, that I thought it was a stunt for political gain and has absolutely nothing to do with teachers' rights, teachers' input into the district, those kinds of things. The master agreement was 58 years, I believe, is the number in our district. And over the years, that master agreement kept weaving its way into the administrative principles of the district until it got to a point that the things that the district needs to do to improve our district was no longer possible because the master agreement was being used to stifle any innovations or anything like that that we wanted to do in the district. It needed to go away, and it has. And I'm so thankful for our board that courageously chose to let that master agreement expire. I will be an English teacher at Doherty High School tomorrow. I'm set up to be there. I'm going to support the kids that are there. I'm going to be supporting the probably 75%, guessing, 75% of the teachers in District 11 that are still going to be in the classroom tomorrow. This is not the majority of teachers, and I'm going to support those teachers that are standing up for kids tomorrow.
So my wife is a teacher, as I said in my intro. She deserves the best pay. She deserves the best benefits. She deserves a disciplined and orderly classroom. She deserves support from her administration. She deserves a safe school to teach in. All of our teachers deserve these things, and we should make them happen. But I don't know how this strike is going to do any of those things. We're taking a day off of work. We're sacrificing that relationship with our families, and we're going to go knock doors and hand out flyers for our political candidates. That's what's happening tomorrow. Not a strike for benefits or pay or support. They're going canvassing. So how is this not a political stunt? That's what we're seeing. So I will be teaching a random subject. I have no idea. I'm getting deployed to a middle school tomorrow, and I will go wherever I need to go, and I will teach whatever I need to teach to support our students. Again, our teachers, they deserve better pay. We need to recruit and retain the best teachers that we can get for our students. So 100% support behind them, but I don't know how this strike helps that.
When I first heard about the strike, I asked myself, is the CSEA out of its mind? It is bonkers to me what they're thinking, but also very telling. It's very telling how people from my community have been taken so off track and become so misaligned because of special interests from Denver telling them what to do. I have spoken with people in the union, people my age and a little bit older. They don't know what the union is anymore. It's gone radical, it's gone crazy, it's gone a little bit more than that, but I don't want to use too strong a language. And it's unfortunate. They shouldn't be doing it. It's not in the best interest of the students. It's not in the best interest of the families. It's not in the best interest of the community. And it's yet again another sign, much like we have political people in Denver sending out mailers slinging mud, while at the same time having nice faces. Special interests get us into places where we're doing things that we normally wouldn't do. And now all of a sudden the environment we're in and the environment we're leaving for our children has become uglier. And I don't like that one bit. And I wish they wouldn't strike. They're wrong for doing it.
Okay, so from this point forward, the questions will come from the audience. You will have 1 minute to answer those questions. A number will show up on the screen if you'd like to text a question. Oh, we're good. We're good. Positive. I want to give you guys a moment to text a question. Yeah. Okay. We'll begin with you, John. How do you feel about allowing staff to be armed in school if they are trained and choose to carry?
I'm for it. My wife is a teacher. I worry about some of the things I see out there. I think people with proper training are the people who actually save the day. I know everything you hear on the media says the opposite of that, and I don't believe what you hear on the media. I think American citizens who have the training and the ability are the people who are here to help us, and I want them to.
So I'm M4 qualified. Michelle has done me one better. She's a marksman. I would want additional training if I were to carry a firearm in a school. I was speaking with our chief of security at District 11 about this very thing. And he shared that some people come with a military background, even a police officer background, and they say, yeah, I've used weapon systems, I'm trained. And he asked what? And on grenades. So there is an appropriate training that our school SROs have to ensure that they're keeping our staff and our kids safe. And then there's a military training, which is a little different, also restraint, but a little different. So I would want to look at that training. I would want to understand what we're signing up for before I said, yep, go, everybody armed. We would want to know what we were doing and be thoughtful about that process.
You know, there were a lot of days when I was walking from my car to the front door at Doherty that I would ask myself the question, is today the day that I'm going to be called upon to try to protect my kids? It was a scary thought. And we had an incident one time at Doherty during lunchtime. Didn't happen in the school, but happened across the street. We went into lockdown and we were immediately pulling kids into the building, grabbing them out, as they came running back across the street. And my classroom was close to the front of the building, so of course it was a natural funnel place to get kids into my classroom. They came in, we shut off the lights, and about 75 teenagers were sitting against the wall in my room. And as I looked around in the room, I suddenly realized that my grandson, who was a student at Doherty, was sitting amongst all those kids. Oh, are we out of time already? I thought we had 90 seconds. Can I finish my story, please? I'll just finish it with that. At that moment, I realized.
Most democratic thing that's going to happen tonight. Go ahead and finish.
Thank you. At that moment, I realized that my calling as a teacher is to be a protector of my kids. And that's what I wanted to do. As far as arming teachers, I have mixed feelings about that. I am a gun owner, and I don't know if I'd have it in me at that moment, so I would definitely need more training. and then have to work through prayerfully all of the considerations that would go with that.
Yeah, I just want you all to witness the punishment for voting to let him finish that story. Michelle.
Thank you. So I am in favor, but I'll explain. I designed a safety and security program for a local charter school here in town, along with another Air Force pilot. So we came at it from a military perspective, and it was a comprehensive program. Everything from getting a sunburn to a tornado to a shooter. And so we decided we would break it down into different pillars and how we would improve the security and safety. But one of the things that we both agreed on when we developed this was we would use people who had law enforcement training. They'd go through Faster Colorado. They would have to qualify every 6 months at a military level of qualification. And we do not arm teachers. We armed unmarked officers, and they rotate throughout the day. One other thing that we added to the program was intelligence. Intelligence working with the police, working with the Air Force Academy, and working with the other universities in town. There's a lot we can do to figure out what the kids are talking about, what the parents are talking about before a person comes onto the campus. So increasing the intelligence is a key part of that. But yes, I will say when I first came out to Colorado from Detroit, my very first trip to the Air Force Academy was the day Columbine happened. How is this still happening? Not under my watch.
If a constituent made you aware of a harmful curriculum that is being used, would you take the time to personally review this curriculum?
Oh, this is my specialty. I develop and design curriculum, and I train teachers. And so I would absolutely be the first to volunteer to look at the curriculum, see how it aligns to the school's mission, see how it aligns to the testing, see how it aligns to the student employment that our kids in our own backyard are looking for. So yes, I'd be the first one in line to actually look at the curriculum. But then I also would develop a team. This isn't me just doing this in a vacuum. I would find the absolute brightest and best in curriculum design and development. And what was the second part of the question?
Would you take time to personally review the
Oh,
curriculum?
yes, and that's one of the reasons also that I became a substitute teacher. I need to be boots on the ground. The only way to get the intel sometimes is to hear it from the students and from the teachers. So I will be subbing as much as I can.
You know, I think curriculum has to be age appropriate, but it also needs to have a certain level of morality to it also. If you can't read it out loud in a school board, then there's probably something that you don't want people to hear. And I don't think we should be exposing our kids to that kind of thing. As a result of that, I would personally review curriculum. However, I will be one of 7 board members. I don't have the authority to go in and change that on my own, but I will definitely be a voice to make sure that we are making sure everything that our kids are being exposed to is appropriate and moral.
Agreed. Age appropriate, a huge priority across the district when we're implementing curriculum. Luckily, we have a pretty amazing superintendent currently who has an excellent team in choosing curriculum. And we need to make sure that parents are involved in this process, educators are involved in this process, and we need to trust our superintendent to make the decisions. But we should, as board members, certainly be informed on the curriculum that we're putting in our schools. I think that we need to, again, like I said before, pick a curriculum that works, train to that curriculum, coach our educators on that curriculum, and then provide supports for them so that we have successful outcomes and an implementation with fidelity.
Yes, I would be more than happy to go over any curriculum. I think that there's quite a bit that is suspect. More than that, though, I would say we need to look at the other aspects of how curriculum is delivered that we're not allowed to talk about, but is really possibly the most suspect thing. My second grader was telling me about a new digital online screen math that she's doing, wherein she's given faces with different emotions as the numbers pop up, and the emotions are judging how well she gets new questions, how she reacts. It's modifying her behavior, and I hope it's doing it in a nice way, but that nobody asks permission means that if some people knew about it, they might have some questions. I would definitely like to look into that too, of course, as one of 7 board members. I think that transparency and families being able to ask the important questions about what really matters to them is very important.
Mr. Gustafson? Would you mask our children if the government said it's necessary?
Say again, please.
Would you mask our children if the government said it's necessary?
Who is the government? In my opinion, that was a huge mistake that we were supposed to trust the science, and it blew up in everybody's face. The people who pushed back against that were isolated in their schools, and they were bullied. My answer is no, unless there was extremely obvious evidence that there was a slap monster going around, and the mask would help against the slap. Other than that, I would want to think about it.
So a wise man once said, "Hello, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Ronald Reagan, if anybody doesn't know. So the mask thing was a sham from the start. We talked about the union a little bit earlier. They made a big deal of closing our schools. That organization was behind, and other teachers' unions across the nation were behind closing our schools when there really was no risk to our students. So no, I don't support any action that could have an adverse effect on our student body without data backing up that decision.
Oh, absolutely not would I enforce masks. You know, it has to be one of the dumbest policies that's ever come out of DC. My wife was an elementary teacher here in D20, a music teacher. They made her wear a mask that had plastic in the front of it so the kids could still see her lips moving. She would see kids trading their Batman mask for a Spider-Man mask, and them watching as they were blowing their noses and sneezing and then doing that in the masks all day. What a catastrophe. And I don't know who thought of that one, but they need to go back and change something again.
So I was living in DC during COVID. The military moved me to Washington, DC. We were working in the White House. I had these two little nuggets who were, 3 and 5. Have you ever seen the kids' masks, the inside of it? It's just snot dripping. It's so gross. Kids are gross already. But then they have these masks. Absolutely not. Kids, would you want to go to school with a mask on? Thank you. We didn't stand for it then. We chose to send our kids. They were on a military base, and the military base didn't enforce it for everyone. And then we put them in a Lutheran school because it was the only school that A, stayed open, and B, said no masks. The benefits of that are that my children can perform at grade level. You know who can't? The kids who were held back because they didn't go to school and they weren't learning, and I can say that from experience being on a charter school board right now, that we're watching not just a 2-year dip, but a 3 to 4 year setback for the children that stayed home. What did we do to them? No, we wouldn't wear masks. That's gross.
You'll get this at 8 o'clock when it's over. All right. D11 has one of the poorest academic records in the Springs. How will you specifically work to improve it?
So first of all, I would make what we call in the military a tiger team. I'd bring together some new teams to really look at the root causes, because this has been happening over decades. The attendance has been declining. Academics have been declining. I was just in Palmer High School for their back-to-school night, and they had 62% attendance. So number one is getting their butts in the seats to actually learn the material. 2 is motivating them to stay there. And then 3 is raising the academic proficiency. So I've been doing a lot of work in studying, should we be asking each school to look how to raise their academic proficiency as a local level, or should we call in that big goal of 70% growth over the next 5 years? And the reason I think making it a district goal was then we could combine some of those resources, and we could use some of the teachers who are teaching one place could mentor others, because really this is going to take a whole village to solve this problem. We're going to have older teachers mentoring younger ones. We're going to have TAs come in that cost a little bit less, that are going to have to do some of the reading intervention. We're also going to have to look at best practices. If you look at some of the Mississippi Miracle literature that's out there, how they turned it around. I mean, let's talk afterwards. I have a whole book of ideas.
As I said earlier, we've got to start with K through 3. And I support teaching phonics. I think we need to get back to phonics with K through 3. But you know, just to the audience, it's going to take some time. We have 8 years, 9 years of kids who didn't get that phonics that are still going to be going through our system. And we have to start developing some plans to get them some mediation, some coaching, some teaching them how to read beyond that. But if we really start focusing on K through 3, getting some phonics, I think that we're going to see these kids blossom. And over the course of the next several years, we'll start seeing those scores come up.
Thank you. So if you walk through McLaren School, you find the McLaren culture. They have a curriculum that they've adopted. Any classroom you walk into, the teacher will tell you, this is the McLaren way, this is how we teach, this is how we instruct, this is how we're coached. And it doesn't matter who you talk to, they know their job and they follow the process. So we have to adopt a culture in D11 of success. We have to adopt a culture that we're going to buy into our curriculum, and this is how we're going to coach our teachers. This is how we're going to train. This is how we're going to teach in every classroom across the entire district. We have over 400 policies in D11 that weigh us down, that slow us down, and limit our flexibility. If we really want to implement change, we need to review those policies. We need to remove any policy that we can that's getting in the way of academic outcomes, and we need to get away from politics in the classroom. My wife's as a first-year teacher, her trainers talked more about their political stances than they did how to be a good teacher. We got to correct that.
Well, to get at the root of the problem, I would uplift families. When you have strong families that you can uplift, you have students that can be uplifted. This might sound like an aside, but when we offshored manufacturing from our country to China, we offshored that pollution. When we replaced it with the addiction economy, we onshored all of the trouble that we see today. All of the dissent, all of the conflict that's produced in the cognitive space of young people, and then we just say we need more government, more resources to spend against it instead of attacking the root problem. And I don't think that's very Christian. I would uplift individual families, strong families. I have a bias with strong fathers, raise good, strong children who have good grades, and when we beat up and bully people who are in situations that we don't understand, it hurts their feelings and it creates division.
You too will get this at 8 p.m. Some argue that social emotional learning is necessary to teach kids to regulate their emotions and behavior. Explain your stance on SEL and when, if ever, it's acceptable for a taxpayer-funded school to regulate kids' emotions.
Well, I refer to my last answer. When you onshore addiction, when you imprint young people to screens instead of imprinting them to human faces, you produce a problem. It's like the homeless industrial complex in California, spending billions of dollars and it gets worse. We're spending billions of dollars working for this Polis Palantir Axis out of Denver that we all are in thrall of, both sides of the special interest divide. Some people are just explicit about it, and some people do it behind closed doors. But that's how we need to solve this problem, by getting to the root of it.
Parents raise children, not schools. So parents need to raise their children. They need to teach them ethics. They need to lean into their social emotional needs. And teachers and schools need to focus on academic outcomes. We should stay in our lanes, but we should partner with each other so the student benefits and we can get those best outcomes possible.
As a high school teacher, I didn't get to participate a lot in social emotional learning. I mean, it was there, but I was a business teacher. So my perspective was, if you don't like it, figure out a way to get around it and fix it. However, watching what my wife dealt with as an elementary music teacher, here in D20, they had a program called Ruler or something where the kids would have to come in and they'd say, well, today I feel like I'm green, or today I think I'm yellow, or whatever it was that they were doing. Teaching kids to focus on their emotions rather than on this concept of today is a day that even if I don't feel like it, I got to get this done. I got to work. I got to make things happen. So I'm not a proponent of SEL. I think it has a way of getting into our kids that is not the responsibility of the school. It's the responsibility of the parents, and I'm going to work with parents to try to make sure they know how to emotionally teach their kids.
Thank you. So I didn't even know what this term was until about 6 months ago. We just haven't been sending our kids, we were in Washington, D.C., to a place that taught SEL. So I had to ask what it was when I came back to Colorado. It's a big deal here. So for people that don't know what it is, it's these classes about emotions, and the teacher has input to how the kids are going to process their emotion. Same question I have. Why are teachers in the business of doing this? They're not trained to do that. They're not psychologists. I will tell you there's probably a place for it. I work with autistic children at an equine therapy center, through a hospital, outside of a school, with the parents' consent, with the parents present. We work on social emotional learning with the horses and the children, and it's powerful. It's not in a school setting. So there's places where we can do this, but the school needs to focus on academics, which is why they're so low, and we don't need to be focusing on all these social programs. That's it.
All right. Getting there. How should a school district deal with transgender ideology in light of Colorado's passage of HB 251312? It's like pronoun/affirmative care.
This one's interesting. We didn't deal with this when we were younger, right? We didn't have these issues come up. I used to get called a tomboy, and I played boys soccer for a very long time under Title IX. But I never had this pressure to say I wanted to become something other than what God created me to be. And so these bills that are coming forward about affirming what a child thinks. I have a 6-year-old boy. Some days he says he's Superman. Are we supposed to affirm him as Superman? No. This is what children do. They don't have their brain, their prefrontal cortex. It's not grown enough to be able to identify. What they need to be taught is you are born a beautiful boy or girl in the image of God. But of course, we can't say those things in our public school. But to have the law come down and try to tell us that we have to affirm what a child wants to call themselves on that day is criminal. This shouldn't be in our schools, and our teachers who are being held to affirm a child who is confused, and that's coming from their home. We shouldn't be asking our teachers to carry that burden either.
I'm going to age myself a little bit here, but some of you, I look in the audience and you'll get this reference. I remember when I got my first pair of PF flyers. Do you guys remember PF flyers? Because they promised that I could run faster and jump higher. And I got them, and I ran off the porch at my grandpa's house, and I jumped off the porch and fell on my face, and the shoes didn't help me at all. It's kind of the way I think things are with what we're teaching our kids on the whole transgender thing, is we think that if we tell them you put on the right clothes, you take the right medications, you do these kinds of things, you can change who you are. And the reality is, the first question I was asked at the first event I attended as a candidate, I was asked, how many genders are there? And my answer was, I believe there's 2. And that's where I think that we need to be. I'm going to affirm kids in my school, whatever it is that they're going through. I'm going to affirm them. I'm going to be there for them. But I'm going to be honest with them. And I'm going to talk to them out of love.
So in our case, that's policy ACA. I think that this falls into that bucket of 400 policies that we probably should reject, and if needed, legally challenge at the state level as a board. I think we're now at a point in Colorado where we should no longer be afraid of legislation and fighting it in the courts if we have to. I think that we've identified in the transgender community that there are serious mental health issues that deserve support and care. And that should definitely be done by a professional. So not a teacher and not in a school setting.
I got 3 little kids. I got 2 little daughters. I worry a lot of the time, what's happening behind those closed doors that I got to give 24 hours notice before I can go into and find out what they're talking about. Then I remember that so much of what's happening to these kids is happening on the outside. And I look at these kids, and I thank God for what Bruce said. I've met kids in distress. And no, I'm not going to go along with their imaginations about things. And yes, I think it's abhorrent that the age of consent in Colorado is 12 years old. I was one of those kids that if I would have got caught by that machine, Lord knows what would have happened to me. Luckily, I was poor and white trash and they didn't want me. But we need to protect our kids from that. It's very important. Thank you very much.
I am pretty sure that I was Batman from sometime between 7 and 13. So I'm just saying, pretty sure. There are prolific buzzwords being thrown around lately, including mental health and trusted adult. Where do you stand on these buzzwords?
People need to watch out. Mental health is going to be weaponized and used against them in the future. It used to be known that, my two nephews are police officers. I love police officers. I stand for them. It should be known if a police officer asks you a question that is not about immediate safety, you should have a lawyer. It's getting to be that place where you need the same thing in a school. Mental health is being weaponized. We need to support people by supporting families and by supporting children. And we don't want a 1984, or an East Germany policy where we're all looking at each other and calling each other crazy, silencing each other, and then, what's the word? Canceling each other? Because if it happens to them, it can happen to us. And someone's got to be the conservative and say, that's not America, and that's not right.
So I'm going to ask you to repeat the question, mental health and buzzwords? Please. They're way over their time over here, my friends.
Take notes on this question. There are prolific buzzwords being thrown around lately, including mental health and trusted adult. Where do you stand on these buzzwords?
Well, I told my kids when they were young, I myself am a trusted adult. I'm your father. If someone tries to get you to go into their car and tries to get you to go with them somewhere, give you candy on the playground, you tell me or you tell your mom. I don't know what other trusted adult there would be other than mom and dad. So that would be my stance on that. And mental health, I know that when I work out, I feel good. So if you're feeling down, just work out, hit the gym.
In my 18 years of teaching, there were a lot of buzzwords that came through the system. And as I look at things, I really kind of go back to self-advocacy. I think kids need to learn how to stand up for themselves. I think that there is a need for, and I hope in the school building, every adult is a trusted adult, that they're going to be careful, that they're going to be sensitive to kids. At the same time, they're not going to lie to students. They're not going to teach them deception to deceive their parents. They're not going to teach them that, as long as you do this at school, it's safe. We're never going to talk to anybody else outside of school. That's just reinforcing deception and lies. And I think we need to be honest with kids. At the same time, we need to make sure that they feel safe and accepted.
So when it comes to these two words, I have opinions about them, but it depends on whether you're in or out of the school setting. I work in mental health. I have one of my master's degrees is in psychology. Like I said, I work in equine therapy with children who desperately need mental health outside of a school system with parental consent through a hospital. Our schools are not the place where mental health, that's where it's starting to become a buzzword, because schools are now taking over the mental health and not asking parents, not telling parents, not getting consent from parents. By trusted adult, on the one hand, I am one of those. I'm a Girl Scout troop leader and a soccer coach. I am considered a trusted adult. But what you're getting at with that question, a trusted adult in the school setting is someone that the child can go to who is not their parent, and they can change gender, talk about their mental health without telling the parents. So when those words are taken and they're weaponized, that's when they become dangerous. So when you hear those, you have to use discernment, you have to use the Holy Spirit, you have to use parental involvement and consent if you hear children saying those words. They're not evil in and of themselves, but in a school setting, they can be misused.
Okay, this will be the last of the text questions. Ha-ha, there you go. I actually kind of like this question. I find it interesting. Whoever sent this in, you're both brilliant and beautiful. Was it you? It was not. Are you for bringing the Bible back into schools as Oklahoma has done? If so, how?
Ooh, this is okay. Let me think carefully about this. Having spent 21 years in the military, there's a very fine line between what the government can and does mandate and faith. I've also lived in other faith countries around the world who it becomes part of their culture. For instance, the Taliban, where religion can be used in a weaponized way. In the United States, there is a fine line between church and state. I choose to send my children to a Christian school. There's no questions asked. What you're getting to is, should we be allowing Bibles back into a public school setting? And I don't have an answer for that right now. I send my kids to a Christian school, and if you have those means, you should be sending your kids to a Christian school. Should me as an English teacher, should I be allowed to talk about the Bible as an ancient text in a public school? I can, I do, and I will, and I'll keep doing it. There are ways to bring the Bible in a very academic way that has nothing to do with crossing that line. So it's about using your faith and being creative and still getting the words into the hearts and minds of children, whether or not you do that through a government function.
I grew up on the Bible. My mom used to set me next to the kitchen sink while she was doing dishes and have me do memory verses. And I can tell you that for 4 years in a row, I was the memory verse king at our kids' crusade every year. So I'm very proud of that. I've got a picture showing me with the crown and everything. So the Bible is the greatest collection of wisdom that is available to humankind. And the word says that thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And I think if we can bring light to kids' lives through the Bible, we should do that. However, I would not want to be teaching sectarianism in the schools. I think we use the Bible. I'd love the idea that Oklahoma is doing, is teaching it as literature and history. And I think that's where we should probably go with that. I don't want somebody who is a non-believer trying to use the Bible to influence my kids to believe the way that they do. So I would not support teaching it for religion.
So two-parter. Answer to the first question, yes. As a constitutionalist, separation of church and state was to protect the church, not the state. So I have met a couple of youth pastors up north that are part of an organization that organize students who want to pray in schools. And so they support those students forming prayer groups in the schools with their peers, and then support and advocate for them to have safe spaces to pray. You have a right in the Constitution to practice your faith no matter where you are. Our children have a right to pray if that is what they want to do, and they should be allowed to.
I believe that the values of the Bible are deeply embedded in all of the best things about public education, about America, and about who we are. I think it's very important to have those principles uplifting us in all that we do. I also believe in authenticity. This is an aside, but one of my favorite movies is To Kill a Mockingbird. I love Gregory Peck in that. I got a poster of him up on my wall. I try hard to be a better person. I look at that every day before I go out. I firmly believe that Atticus Finch could bring people to God, to Jesus Christ, like people need to be brought, without having to wave a Bible in their face. And in fact, I think the real struggle is one of authenticity. How do you get young people to believe you? Not the amazing young people that these guys touch, but the ones in my neighborhood, the ones who need saved. And that's by being authentic. So any way that we can that doesn't get stopped, yeah, we need faith, and we need the Bible.
Okay, so now is closing statements. You each have 1 minute. So if you've got something prepared, you were quick. So since you grabbed the mic first, we'll start with you.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out here tonight. It's because of people like you that this is the greatest country in the world. It's because of people like us. People who stand up and do the hard work, who sacrifice with no thought of making money, of making connections, of being liked by the in-group. People who really do want the world to be a better place for our children. People who wonder how we got here to the world we're in today. The same people who've been telling us to trust them to go along to get along, to spy on our kids and us with AI, Those same people are telling us to close our eyes and trust them yet again. And that don't sound like freedom. The fact is that there needs to be some moderation, some pushback, and that's what I'm here for. I can read budgets, I understand academic white papers, I know about staffing and asset management. I also know when someone pees on my leg and tells me it's raining, I know what to do. I'm John Gustafson, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
I'm going to close with my openings. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. My wife is a D11 teacher. Both of my students go to a D11 charter school. I've worked at D11 for the last 15 years. Before that, I spent 5 years working with incarcerated youth because I believe every student has a right to a quality education. I spent 5 years working with expelled students, continuing their education after they were removed from the educational environment. I think that we need to have a robust public education system in the heart of Colorado Springs so that our students have hope for a better future, and they deserve a better future. We must improve from that 27% grade level proficiency at mathematics. We must improve from that 38% grade level proficiency in reading, writing, and social studies. I too ask for your vote. My website is parents4jeremiah.com. If you have any questions, please email.
As the only K through 12 classroom teacher that's running this year of all 7 candidates, no offense to any of my friends up here, but I believe that I am the most qualified to serve on the board in District 11. I think my knowledge, my skills, my abilities, as well as my commitment to academic achievement, understanding of budget and infrastructure, and then trying to build character and respect among kids is something that kind of sets me apart. I've committed myself to the students, to the parents, to the teachers, to the taxpayers of our district. I'm always willing to listen to both sides, and I'm always going to do what is best for kids. I ask for your vote. My name is Bruce Cole, and you can find my website at electbrucecole.com.
And I'm Dr. Michelle Rule, and respectfully, Bruce, I have to say I think I'm the most qualified out of the 7. I've been an educator for many years. I also teach K through 12. I'm on a school board right now. I've raised the scores after COVID. I've created a security and safety program. I've overseen a budget. I've also done that at the Pentagon, and I will bring that same experience to the D11 board. Also, I was an Air Force pilot on a mission for many years, and if you think that I had a mission and I had a heart for the children of Afghanistan, just wait until you unleash a mom of young children in D11. I have a new mission, and I'm not going to stop until we reach our objective of raising the scores, improving the school safety, and giving our kids hope for the future.
Okay, so if I could have you all please give our candidates a hand.